Windy day on the San Francisco Bay means that it's a perfect time for our first ever 49ers update in 4K. Fire up those big screen TVs. But seriously, it's a good thing that I've got this mic, because if I didn't, well, the wind coming off the Golden Gate would be deafening. Potentially good news for the 49ers. Derek Carr, the Saints quarterback, might miss this 2025 season with a shoulder issue that might cause surgery. That's according to Ian Rappaport. The Saints are scheduled to pick at number 9. This might push them to pick a quarterback at number 9. And if that's the case, that means that the 49ers have a higher chance of being able to land a premier player at number 11. This draft is tricky because there aren't all too many blue chippers. There aren't enough to fill up the entire first round, but it's actually a very deep draft, which means that I think a lot of teams, including the 49ers, would be interested in trading back. But if there are more teams interested in trading back than trading up, then there's not going to be a whole lot of trading happening because you need 2 to tango. So that means the 49ers might be stuck in between a rock and a hard place at number 11, kind of like me at the edge of this pier, about to blow off of it, but I'll try to hold my ground and finish this update. But if the 49ers are stuck in between a rock and a hard place at 11, the best way out of it would be for an elite player to drop to them. And the chances of that are higher if the New Orleans Saints pick a quarterback at number 9 instead of a potentially blue chip prospect. You know, it all led me to go back and look at the last time the 49ers had the number 11 overall pick. And obviously the situations in the previous drafts where this was the case made for a different setup. But 2007 and 2010 were both years where the 49ers picked number 11 overall. And in both of those seasons, they actually traded back up into the first round to pick twice in the first round. And in both of those situations, they ended up with quite the haul. 2007, Patrick Willis at number 11, Joe Staley at number 28. And 2010, the 49ers picked Anthony Davis, an offensive tackle, at number 11. And they traded back into the first round at number 17, and they got Mike Iupati, who was a Pro Bowl offensive guard. Geez, I'm really about to blow off this pier. I give you guys on-location updates like nobody else. We're doing our best. I mean, this is the Golden Gate that it's very most treacherous, I feel. There's no fog. It's beautifully sunny, but we're still about to blow over into the bay here. I do not have swimming gear on. I actually have cowboy boots on here at the pier. So anyway, 3 offensive linemen taken with first-round picks over those 2 drafts. It was quite the haul. Joe Staley, Mike Iupati, and Anthony Davis. It helped build the foundation of the Jim Harbaugh era offensive lines that were so successful for the 49ers. There needs to be a foundational focus on that offensive line in front of Brock Purdy. So I do wonder, how can the 49ers reprise 2007 and 2010 in 2025? Is it even possible? And you look at some of the dynamics. There are 2 by consensus premier tackles coming out in this draft. Armand Membu out of Missouri and Will Campbell out of LSU. But most think that neither of those 2 guys will fall down to number 11. So in order to draft one of those 2 tackles, the 49ers might have to trade up. Who might fall to number 11? Maybe Kelvin Banks Jr., although there's some debate about whether he's going to be a better tackle or guard at the NFL level. I think that it's important to have quality blocking at both spots. I mean, there's so many very lethal interior defensive linemen now rushing from the inside, where the guard position is super important as well. Aaron Donald, back when he was terrorizing people in a Rams uniform, was lining up a defensive tackle, was lining up a defensive end, and if he didn't have good guards, well, he would prey on the guards. If he didn't have good tackles, he would prey on that tackle position. So I think that both guard and tackle is important. If the 49ers think that Kelvin Banks Jr. Is a good lineman, period, notwithstanding his exact position, they should take a really long, hard look at drafting him. But then there's the potential opportunity of linemen who aren't expected to go at the very top of the draft, but have grades between the first and the second round. The one that I think most about is Josh Conerly Jr. out of Oregon. And, you know, when we look at where Joe Staley was drafted, number 28 in 2007, we look at where Mike Iupati was drafted, number 17 in 2010. Iupati, by the way, just hired as Washington State's offensive line coach. Congratulations to him. He should be a great teacher there for the Cougars. But when you look at where those guys were drafted, I could see something similar, right, with the 49ers. Either they reach, which wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if the player actually ends up good. They reach and they draft a guy like Connerly at number 11, or we see some kind of trade back into the first round, or if they can trade back from number 11, although that might be difficult in this year's draft, and you could see them pick somebody like Connerly, who they really like, with a non-ultra premier pick. Either way, they've got 11. This is the most capital that the 49ers have had without a top 10 pick since 2014, and it, I think, resembles the amount of capital that they had in those 2007 and 2010 drafts. In fact, back in 2014, when they had a lot of capital, a lot of picks, without picking in the top 10, they picked the number 30. That was their first pick, and they named it Jimmy Ward, which was obviously a really successful pick for the 49ers. He was with the team for, 9 years before he left to the Houston Texans. Other part of today's update, we're going to look at George Kittle, C.J. Beathard, and Trent Taylor, the Nashville crew at George Kittle's place in Nashville. He's got a setup out in the countryside where it's probably not as windy as this, although, I can't speak too soon. I was in Nashville a few days ago and we couldn't go to bed because there was tornado sirens blaring all night. There were a lot of storms coming through, but it looks like the weather is really nice in Nashville now as Beathard throws to Kittle and Trent Taylor. The three were teammates on the 49ers back from 2017 to 2020. Now it's only Taylor and Kittle on the 49ers. Taylor took a detour, right? But he came back to San Francisco. And C.J. Beathard, well, he's a backup quarterback elsewhere, but not during the offseason, working with George Kittle. And I think that it's, plugs into this a little bit. George Kittle had about 50 snaps in pass protection last year. So as we talk about the offensive line, we talk about the fact that George Kittle's had to help out that 49ers offensive line over the years. Auxiliary tackle for San Francisco. They signed Luke Farrell this offseason so that this is a blocking tight end who's really good in pass protection, so he could take some pressure off of George Kittle in the pass blocking game and allow George Kittle to go out for more routes. And Kittle's one of the 49ers' better separators, better receivers. That's pass protection too. If you can get open quicker, if you can catch the ball more effectively, if you can become a trusted agent of the quarterback, of Brock Purdy in the receiving game, he's more likely to throw quicker to you. And if he throws more quickly to you, then that means that the pass rush has less time to beat the offensive line. So football's a team sport. All 11 have to work together as the 49ers think about who they're going to draft at the offensive line and think about how they're going to attack the other positions. Nice look into George Kittle's workout regimen. All right, your first 49ers show in 4K from the San Francisco Bay. Set up those big screen TVs. Watch in the living room. We'll talk to you soon.